Alright, Shalom. You reached the Heat Prayer channel. My name is Ozzy Mawath. But first and foremost, I want to say, call Halayim Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Harakakodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders, 7:13:19, where I learned this truth from, and who rule well. Salutations to the Bakiyar, the elect, the 144,000. That's 12,000 men from each of the 12 tribes of Israel. The 12 tribes of Israel consist of you so-called blacks, Latinos, and indigenous of America. The 144,000 being the governing body. Within the one-third, the rest of the one-third comprises of elect men, women, and children. Shalom to those Israelites scattered due to the diaspora and also the triangular trade. So our people come looking like different ethnicities, having various complexions. So this is not a black thing. We're not the black Hebrew Israelites. We're just Hebrew Israelites. Shalom to those that die in this truth. It says the dead should be raised up first. Those that will be accompanying Yahweh Shah on his return, including our King, King Mashah, who is King David. As always, it's an honor and privilege, honor and blessing to continue to do this work. The water Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shah for answering my prayers and permitting me to do such. Baba Kashah Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shah Ba'ashim Harakhakwadash. Allowed us to be an edifying lesson to at least one member of the elect. So, see if I have a working title real quick. All right, so the name of this particular video is going to be titled, Afore My Mother Warned I'd Be Persecuted. You know? So I'm going to use a Copilot for this particular video. For section 1, it says, setting the stage, the mother, the sons, and your title. 2nd Maccabees 7, which we can go there and get to it right now, you know, because this is a very important read for these times, man. A critical read and meditation for these times, man. Especially when we come into the hour of temptation and the time of our persecution. This is 2nd Maccabees chapter 7, verse 1. It reads, it came to pass also that the 7 brethren with their mother were taken. You know, just imagine, you know, fast forward to these times, the probability of this scenario playing back again, especially when they outright start killing these people, man, and putting them into these concentration camps, internment camps, and putting their heads in the guillotine, or prior torturing them. It says, and compelled by the king against the law. Now, this particular king is Antiochus Epiphanes, who terrorized our people, you know, and he's back here today. You know, it says against the law, against Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shah's law, to taste swine's flesh. Let me see. This is Leviticus chapter 11, verse 7. It says, and the swine, though he divide the hoof and be cloven-footed, yet he cheweth not the cud, he is unclean to you. So a swine can also be called a sow. It could also be called a pig, a boar. And according to the Levitical law, the law of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua, it's unclean. It's an unclean animal unto you Israelites. It will make you sick because while you transgress the law, so through that transgression of the law and you eating it, it's going to bring about sickness and then death. You know, a lot of our people that have certain diseases like diabetes and gout and anything that involves intestinal, you know, 9 times out of 10, they eat these abominable foods. This is Deuteronomy chapter 14, verse 8. It says, "And the swine, because it divideth the hoof, yet cheweth not the cud, it is unclean unto you. Ye shall not eat of their flesh, nor touch their dead carcass." So you're not even supposed to touch their dead carcass because it's filled with disease, man. You know, let's get some few points real quick. Then we'll get back to the topic at hand. I just wanted to show the importance of this law and why they were so adamant on upholding it. I think that's how you say it, spell it. Hold on. See what it says real quick. All right, so I just said it like this, so AI can give me the information that I desire. But it says scientific reasons for avoiding swine, high risk of parasites. Pigs are known carriers of several parasites harmful to humans, especially when meat is undercooked. Trichinella subparalis causes trichinosis. Tinea solium, pork tapeworm, Toxoplasma gondii, toxoplasmosis. Before modern cooking standards, these infections were common and often deadly. 2. Pork spoils faster than other meats. Pork has a higher fat content and different muscle chemistry, causing it to spoil rapidly in warm climates, grow bacteria quickly without refrigeration, become toxic if not cooked immediately. Ancient Israel lived in a hot environment with no refrigeration, making pork especially dangerous. 3. Pigs are biological toxin concentrators. Pigs do not sweat, which means they eliminate fewer toxins through their skin. They also eat almost anything, including carrion, which is dead animals, feces, decaying matter. This allows toxins, viruses, and parasites to accumulate in their tissues more easily than in ruminant animals like cows and sheep. For pigs are not scientifically, slocky. Pigs are genetically similar to humans. Because pig tissue is biologically close to human tissue, viruses can jump between pigs and humans more easily. Pigs can act as a mixing vessels. Pigs can act as mixing vessels for new viral strands. This is why many influenza strains originate in pigs. 5. Higher bacterial load. Raw pork is more likely to contain harmful bacteria such as Salmonella, Listeria, Yersinia enterocolitica, a major cause of food poisoning. Yersinia, in particular, is strongly associated with undercooked pork. 6. Handling dead swine increases contamination risk. Touching a pig carcass exposes a person to blood-borne pathogens, parasites in the skin and tissues, bacteria on the surface of the carcass. Without modern sanitation, this could easily lead to infection. 7. Higher fat content and health risk. Pork contains high levels of saturated fat, high cholesterol, inflammatory compounds. These contribute to cardiovascular disease when consumed frequently. You wonder why our people are high in heart disease. 8. Pigs harbor zoonotic diseases. Pigs can transmit diseases to humans, including swine flu, hepatitis E, Nipah virus, various bacterial infections. In ancient times, these risks were not understood scientifically, but were very real. You know, so there's a reason why you should not eat swine. But yet here comes this Edomite devil, Antiochus Epiphanes, who were trying to force that onto our people to get them to break the law of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. It says, and were tormented with scourges and whips. But one of them that spake first said thus, what wouldest thou ask or learn of us? We are ready to die rather than to transgress the laws of our fathers. Right? It says, then the king being in a rage, you know, he was very pissed, commanded pans and cauldrons to be made hot. You know, because Esau, he's all about torturing people, man. Even until this day, that's why you even have something called waterboarding, which is, lightweight. The effects make you feel like as if you're drowning, which a lot of people are going to get waterboarded in these camps. Verse 4 says, which forthwith being heated, he commanded to cut out the tongue of him that spake first. So that brother had his tongue cut out of his mouth, man, for the words that he spoke. Are you ready to get your tongue cut out of your mouth for uttering the names Yahweh, Yahweh Shai? It says, and to cut off the utmost parts of his body, which is his arms, right? The rest of his brethren and his mother looking on. Now, when he was thus maimed in all his members, now I'm not saying everyone's going to go through the same torturing, just those that are allotted to have to die as martyrs, as witnesses of Yahweh Bashim Yahshua. But really, are they really dying? No. That's the rites of passage toward that particular glorification, man. You know, because those that die and stand stiffly for the name of Yahweh Bashim Yahshua are going to be praised. It says, the rest of his brethren and his mother looking on. Now, when he was thus maimed in all his members, he commanded him, being yet alive, so that brother was still alive, man, to be brought to the fire and to be fried in the pan. And as the vapor of the pan was for a good space dispersed, they exhorted or encouraged one another with the mother to die manfully, saying thus, Yahweh looked upon us, and in truth had comfort in us, as Moses in his song, which witnessed to their faces, declared, saying, he shall be comforted in his servants. So when the first was dead after this number, they brought the second to make him a mocking stock. And when they had pulled off the skin of his head with the hair, so they basically scalped him. And we already know who is known to scalp people, man. And it's the same individual that's in this scene, an Edomite, which was way before they started calling themselves white. It says they asked him, wilt thou eat before thou be punished throughout every member of thy body? But he answered in his own language, which was the Lashawan Tahar, the pure language, the Hebrew, the Abayah, and said no. Wherefore he also received the next torment in order as the former did. So he was dismembered and put in that pan to fry. And when he was yet at the last gasp, in the movies, they always depict the last gasps, which I'm pretty sure they got from the scriptures. Where whatever individual says their final words. Well, this was his. It says, he said, thou like a fury takest us out of this present life, but the King of the world shall raise us up. So we have to have that mentality if we find ourselves experiencing these things in our lot, right? We have to understand that Yahweh Bashim Yahushua is going to raise us back up. Yahushua Ratazah be of that number. It says, who have died for his laws unto everlasting life. So those who died for his laws, but in this sense, in these times, it's for the faith, the truth. Verse 10, it says, after him was the third made a mocking stock, and when he was yet required, he put out his tongue, and that right soon holding forth his hands manfully, and said courageously, these I had from heaven, and for his laws I despise them, and from him I hope to receive them again. And so much that the king and they that were with him marveled at the young man's courage, for that he nothing regarded the pains. So basically he held his hands up for them to chop him off. Now you know that couldn't no other group of people do this and go through this besides, you so-called blacks, Latinos, and indigenous, man. That's why, when we get these heathens into slavery, it's going to be that much sweeter because we're going to remember all of our past lives, man, and everything that they've done. It says, now when this man was dead also, they tormented and mangled the fourth in like manner. So when he was ready to die, he said, thus it is good being put to death by men, to look for hope from the Most High to be raised up again by him. As for thee, thou shalt have no resurrection to life. Right. Why is that? Because he was an Edomite. And, these Edomites, you so-called white people that go back through the line of Abraham, Isaac, and Esau, you have no resurrection to life. You're going to be in 1,000 years of hardcore, vicious, righteous slavery. And then you're going to be gathered up, your men, and we're going to destroy that line off the face of the earth, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua. There's not going to be another Edomite ever to exist. Verse 15, afterward they brought the fifth also and mangled him. Then looked he unto the king, Slakia, and said thus, Slakia, thou hast power over men, thou art corruptible. Thou doest what thou wilt, yet think not that our nation is forsaken of the Most High. And that's something that you so-called white people need to understand, man. We're not forsaken, man. Men standing on their feet and preaching his word is enough proof. And that's something that could be told on to Nero, the cruel Lord, Donald Trump. Let me read it again. It says, thou hast power over men, thou art corruptible. And these individuals making all these major decisions as far as depleting populations, they couldn't even win in a street fight, man. They can't fight their way out of a paper bag. They can't even put a Big Mac down. The Big Mac is kicking ass. So they can get it too. They can also perish by Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua as well. It says, thou doest what thou wilt. They do according to, their mind and not the mind of the Heavenly Father. These devils, they don't align their policy with the scriptures. They align their policy with being adversarial to the scriptures. It says, yet think not that our nation is forsaken of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua. But abide a while and behold his great power, how he will torment thee and thy seed, which is the Edomites. So you so-called white people, you're about to be tormented, you and thy seed, man. After him also they brought the six, who being ready to die said, be not deceived without cause. For we suffer these things for ourselves, having sinned against our power. Therefore marvelous things are done unto us. But think not thou that takest in hand to strive against the Most High, that thou shalt escape unpunished. And you so-called white people, you think you're gonna ride into the sunset, man. No, you're not gonna go unpunished. Everything that is happening, whether it be your feats or your defeats, is all prophetic. Your end was already written, and we're reading your end. Verse 20, it says, but the mother was marvelous above all and worthy of honorable memory. For when she saw her 7 sons slain within the space of one day, she bare it with the good courage, because of the hope that she had in Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua. Yes, she exhorted every one of them in her own language, filled with courageous spirits. Now, just imagine a righteous woman hyping her uh, her uh, her sons up. You know, it says, and stirred up her womanish thoughts. You know, just imagine her talking her shit, man. With a manly stomach, she said unto them, I cannot tell how you came into my womb, for I neither gave you breath nor life. Now that's a righteous statement, which, you know, these modern women think it was all on them, man. They think that, you know, they don't need a man to bring forth a baby, or they did it all on their own, man. Which shows you how stupid these stupid women are, man. And a lot of the dead are going to be these women, man, in these world wars and these civil wars. It's going to be a lot of women and children that are going to die. It says, neither was it I that formed the members of every one of you, but doubtless the creator of the world, who formed the generation of man and found out the beginning of all things, will also of his own mercy. Salakia. Read from the beginning. It says, but doubtless the creator of the world, who formed the generation of man and found out the beginning of all things, will also of his own mercy give you breath and life again. You know, so we live many lives, man. But this time around, this is the final life that we're going to have with the ability to die. Because in the kingdom, when we're in the new bodies, we're going to be immortal. It says, as ye now regard not your own selves for his law's sake. Now Antiochus, thinking himself despised and suspecting it to be a reproachful speech, whilst the youngest was yet alive, did not only exhort him by word, so this devil was trying to encourage the youngest uh, brother, the son, but also assured him with oaths, promises, that he would make him both a rich and a happy man if he would turn from the laws of his fathers. And this is the firmness and faith that we have to be in, man. No matter what. It says in that also he would take him for his friend and trust him with affairs. But when the young man would in no case hearken unto him, and you know how Jake is, they, you know, they don't even look at the motherfucker talking when they ain't trying to hear it, man. You know, it says the king called his mother and exhorted her that she would counsel the young man to save his life. And when he had exhorted her with many words, she promised him that she would counsel her son. But she bound herself toward him, laughing the cruel tyrant to scorn, spake in her country language on this manner. O my son, have pity on me that I bare thee 9 months in my womb, and gave thee such 3 years, or suck 3 years, and nourished thee, and brought thee up unto this age, and endured the troubles of education. I beseech thee, my son, which beseech means to beg. Look upon the heaven and the earth and all that is therein, and consider that Yahweh made them of things that were not, and so was mankind made likewise. You know, Yahweh did it through his son, Yahweh Shai. Fear not this tormentor, but being worthy of thy brethren, take thy death, that I may receive thee again in mercy with thy brethren. While she was yet speaking these words, the young man said, "Whom wait ye for? I will not obey the king's commandment, but I will obey the commandment of the law that was given unto our fathers by Moses. And thou, that has been the author of all mischief against the Hebrews." So who was the Ptolemaic dynasty going up against? They were going against the Hebrews. So let's see, because we know Antiochus came from the line of Ptolemy, right? Let me see. So I'm getting too excited. Oh, Slovakia. Uh, Epiphanes fought against the Ptolemaic dynasty, but he was the Seleucid king. So what did the Seleucids look like compared to the Hebrews? So this is a so-called bust of Epiphanes, which looked like Pete Hegseth. Which could very well be Pete Hegseth. So these damn devils have always been our enemies, man. Verse 33, continuing, it says, "Shall not escape by the hands of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, for we suffer because of our sins. And thou, the living power, be angry with us. And though the living power be angry with us a little while for our chastening and correction, yet shall he be at one again with his servants. But thou, O godless man, and of all other most wicked, be not lifted up without a cause, nor puffed up with uncertain hopes, lifting up thy hand against the servants of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua." And that's what they're gonna intend to do. "For thou hast not yet escaped the judgment of the Almighty Power, who seeth all things. For our brethren who now have suffered a short pain are dead under Yahweh's covenant of everlasting life. But thou, through the judgment of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, shall receive just punishment for thy pride." And this extends to his seed. So it's speaking about all you damn Edomites, man. It says, "But I, as my brethren, offer up my body and life for the laws of our fathers, beseeching Yahweh Bashem Yahushua that he would speedily be merciful unto our nation, and that thou by torments and plagues mayest confess that he alone is the Most High." And this actually happened because Antiochus had like a stomach virus. Let me see. So what stomach ailment did Antiochus Epiphanes have? The book of Second Maccabees, sudden, agonizing, abdominable disease, sharp abdominal pains, internal organ failure, intestinal decay, worm infestation, foul-smelling discharge. This text portrays the illness as divine punishment, not clinical diagnosis. Other ancient sources, mental disease and internal sickness. A scholarly review notes that many sources describe Antiochus as dying shortly after being driven from Elymais, suffering from a severe internal illness, possible mental disturbance, rapid physical deterioration. So, when the son, right, said that, and that thou by torments and plagues mayest confess that he alone is the most high, So he put a curse on him, man. It says, didn't he try to repent and give honor to the God of Yasharallah? Yes, according to Second Maccabees, chapter 9, Antiochus the fourth Epiphanes did attempt to repent and honor the power of Yasharallah shortly before his death. The account describes a dramatic change of heart during his fatal illness, where he promised reforms, offerings, and even to become a Jew. This information comes directly from the ancient narrative in Second Maccabees, the ninth chapter. So he put a curse on that motherfucker, man. Verse 38 says, and that in me and my brethren, the wrath of the Almighty, which is justly brought upon our nation, may cease. Then the king, being in a rage, handed him worse than all the rest, and took it grievously that he was mocked. So this man died undefiled and put his whole trust in Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. Last of all, after the sons, the mother died, showing you that there's an order, men then women, you know, because a lot of you women, you want to always lead and step in the forefront, but what if your ass is leading, your man in particular, and you go through a door, and as soon as you walk through that door, there's nothing but a shootout going on and bullets flying all your direction. What if that man's closed the door on your ass? So you can't get out and you're trapped all because you want to lead and think you can lead a man. It's verse 2, it says, let this be enough now to have spoken concerning the idolatrous feasts and the extreme tortures. So these devils, they got a lot to pay for, man. So going back to co-pilot, it says Second Maccabees 7 gives a record of a mother and her 7 sons arrested by Antiochus because they will not eat swine's flesh and break the law. One of the sons says, we are ready to die rather than to transgress the laws of our ancestors. That's why I look at these pork chop eating ass niggas in disdain. It says, that's your title in spirit. Afore my mother warned, I'd be persecuted. She knew spiritually, she prepared them. She formed courage in her sons ahead of time. That's what you're asking to pray for, courage before the hour, so that in the moment you move thoughtlessly, meaning without inner debate, without second guessing, straight obedience. Our mother too represents this wisdom, man. Going back to the Greek word Sophia, it's a feminine spirit, wisdom, that is. You know, section 2. I don't know if I want to read this. I'll probably skip it, but I'll read it anyway. Isaiah 28. And the way the Spirit teaches, precept pattern for precept must be upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line. Quoting, not verbatim, Isaiah chapter 28, verse 10. The Spirit doesn't build courage in one verse, he layers it. The mother in 2nd Maccabees 7 didn't improvise. In that moment, her mind was already instructed, precept upon precept. Yahweh Shah already told you, you will be hated. So, St. Matthew chapter 10, verse 22, it says, and ye shall be hated of all men for my name's sake, but he that endureth to the end shall be saved. Right? So we're going to be hated of all these people, man. And the Most High is going to put the spirit out there for, it to manifest. And it's just to test us. This is Luke chapter 21, verse 12. It says, but before all these, they shall lay their hands on you and persecute you, delivering you up to the synagogues and into prisons, being brought before kings and rulers for my name's sake. And it shall turn to you for a testimony. Settle it therefore in your hearts, not to meditate before what ye shall answer. For I will give you a mouth and wisdom which all your adversaries shall not be able to gainsay nor resist. And ye shall be betrayed both by parents and brethren and kinsfolks and friends, and some of you shall they cause to be put to death. And ye shall be hated of all men for my name's sake. And you starting to see, a little bit of foreshadowing with the whole sign that said Yahweh Shah is coming. That was placed right in front of a synagogue. And, of course, these damn devils think they're getting nervous, man. It says, your title Afore my mother warned, I be persecuted. And this title actually was inspired by what my own mother told me when I was when I was coming into the truth, or when I was just first coming into the truth. That which it was her womanly thoughts, but for me to be careful of who I'm around, because they might get me into trouble. But that was just her womanish thoughts, which I was already fully persuaded. I was already accepting of the ultimate outcome, which to me the ultimate outcome is to die for this truth. And that's the mark Yahweh Shah Ratazah I'm pressing toward. It says, lines up with Yahweh Shah's whole approach. He warns before so that when it hits, you endure without surprise and without stumbling. Serving not above his master. If they have persecuted me, they will also persecute you. St. John chapter 15, verse 20. If your mother in the spirit elders, teachers, scriptures has warned you. That's mercy. Cowardice grows when persecution isn't taught. And these other groups, their congregations, leaders, their shepherds, they're not uh, informing them about the things that Great Millstone informs us about. And I'm not drinking no tea. I'm not drinking no water. I'm drinking bone broth. And to be specific, beef bone broth. Section 3. Inside 2nd Maccabees 7, the spirit behind their courage, the core stance. 2nd Maccabees 7 opens with 7 brothers and their mother, tortured with whips and scourges, forced to eat pork against the law. Which that's not according to what it said. They were separated, dismembered, and fried in a pan with their tongues cut out. It says one of the brothers replies they are ready to die rather than transgress the laws of their fathers. That's covenant loyalty, not feelings. Kiadir, ready to die, came before the pain. That's the mindset you're seeking. The mother's mindset. Their tradition describes the mother as having a woman's reasoning and a man's courage, encouraging her sons to refuse the king and choose martyrdom. She speaks to them in their own language, reminding them the Creator can give life again after death. Spiritual angle. She's not just emotional, she's doctrinal. Her faith is rooted in resurrection. He who gave you life can restore it. Link that to St. Matthew chapter 10, verse 28. Fear not them which kill the body, but are not able to kill the soul. Right? Revelation chapter 2, verse 10, it says, Be thou faithful unto death, and I will give thee a crown of life. Right? It says the mother in 2nd Maccabees chapter 7 is living out those precepts centuries before Yahushua words were spoken. Section 4. Language and etymology, thoughtless, courage in the spirit. You said thoughtless, meaning not questioning the decision to die rather than disobey. Let's connect that to biblical concepts. Hebrew root of courage and steadfastness, kazak, to be strong, to be firm, to strengthen. Used in be strong and of good courage, Joshua chapter 1, verses 6 through 9. Courage here isn't just emotion, it's firmness, an inner gripping, unshaking. Aman, to be firm, to be faithful, to support. From this we get, screen is dirty. From this we get imuna, faith, meaning steadiness, reliability. Dying rather than disobeying is faith as loyalty, not just belief. Your thoughtlessness, in that sense, is not ignorance, it's preset loyalty. You already chose. There's no more inner vote. And that's what I do when I start questioning shit. And I say, hey, you already prayed. And, that ends the whole, flesh trying to reason with them. You already prayed. No more discussion. You already prayed about it. You already asked. So shut the fuck up. It's done already. Greek notions, boldness and not shrinking back. In the Greek scriptures, parousia, boldness, frankness, open confidence. They spoke the word of the Most High with boldness. Quoting Acts chapter 4, verse 31. Dario, to be confident, courageous. We are also confident willing rather to be absent from the body and to be present with Yahweh Shai. 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verses 6 through 8. That's exactly your thoughtless readiness, rather to be absent from the body and to be present with Yahweh Shai. But we know that, just as Paul said, that we have a job basically. Section 5, dying without hesitation. The will of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua, the inner decision, obedience over survival. The sons in 2 Maccabees chapter 7 refuse unlawful food and accept torture and death. They don't negotiate. No, just this once. No, I'll repent later. No, God knows my heart, so I'll bend outwardly. That's the spirit of St. Matthew chapter 10, verse 39, quoting, "He that findeth his life shall lose it, and he that loseth his life for my sake shall find it." Just imagine all you that are going to give in because you ain't got no fucking backbone, man. You didn't build that relationship. Your mind is not at this level of you being willing to die for Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua. Luke chapter 9, verse 24, quoting, "Whosoever will save his life shall lose it." A lot of you going to get that MOTB, man. I already know it. Everybody knows it, man. Especially you that haven't really gone through anything. And I'm not saying that in a sense as you needed to be a tough guy, but the Most High had to put you through certain things for you to experience and to overcome, to build your faith in Him. It says thoughtless here means the deliberation already happened in the secret place long ago. In the moment, there is only execution of what's already settled. Loving not your life unto death. Revelation chapter 12, verse 11, quoting, "They love not their lives unto the death." Right? That verse describes your whole topic. To love not your life is not self-hate, but priority. Pleasing Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai over breathing longer in wickedness. The mother in 2 Maccabees chapter 7 loved her sons, but she loved Yahweh more, and she loved their salvation more than their temporary relief. Section 6, a GMS-style exhortation and a model prayer for courage. Exhortation, understand, persecution is certain if you truly follow Yahweh Shai. It's not random, it's part of the contract. Accept beforehand. Like those 7 sons, settle it now. I am ready to die rather than transgress. And a lot of these niggas that ain't right, they'll look at an individual that has that thought process as being wicked or being odd or out of their mouth bizarre. But that's really the mind state you have to be in, man. Willing to accept whatever Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua throws your way. Next, it says, feed your mind precept upon precept. So in the moment, you don't invent courage. You draw it from what's already written, already believed. Detach from this life. Check your own soul. What are you still scared to lose? Reputation, comfort, relationships, money, body. Those are the hooks persecution pulls on. The mother trained her sons to see beyond this life. That's where the power came from. And that's why it says, seek ye the kingdom. Luke chapter 12, verse 31, but rather seek ye the kingdom of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, and all these things shall be added unto you. St. Matthew chapter 6, verse 33, but seek ye first the kingdom of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. And those things added on is immortality and righteousness, man. I'm going to read this prayer that AI came up with. It's pretty good too. But it says, model prayer in the spirit of what you ask. You can adopt this, but here's one way to put it. Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, strengthen my mind to be firm in your will. Teach me now to despise this world and to love your commandments more than my own life. As the mother and her 7 sons chose death rather than to break your law, put that same spirit in me. Remove from me the fear of men, the fear of pain, and the fear of death. Let me fear only you. Set my heart so that in the hour of trial I do not hesitate, I do not question, I do not look back, but I obey you without debate. Give me boldness to confess your name, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, even unto death. Seal me with faith that looks past the grave to the resurrection in the kingdom. You know, it says, so let your will be done in me, whether by life or by death. Amen. Let it be. You know, so going back to the title of the video, it reads, Afore my mother warned, I be persecuted. So with that, hope at least one brother of the elect was edified, and I'm going to say shalom.